Hey everybody, it's the Mad Master here. I'm doing a video in the middle of cleaning my apartment. I decided to do this impromptu video, and this video is about a very controversial subject that I decided to do a video about because I saw a Facebook ad for Bumble a couple minutes ago. And I started thinking about this, and I think this is something that people need to bring up a lot more often because this is just it's a societal trend and sick societal trend, in my opinion, that doesn't really get brought up all too often. And without sounding like a bitter person or an incel or whatever you want to call it, because I'm not trying to sound like this, but there is definitely a double standard with this because what I'm talking about, of course, is the use of filters and 10-year-old pictures. Like a woman, and I've been guilty of some of this myself. Not the filters thing, but like using older pictures. Like some of my pictures on some of these dating apps and stuff are like 3 years old now, and it probably isn't a good idea to do that necessarily. Now I see this is a very deceptive thing that people are doing on these apps and these sites, and that's what I'm trying to say with this video, because I feel like obviously you have to put the best foot forward and be your best self as far as trying to date and do all that stuff. So you're going to have nice pictures, but a lot of women take it too far, and they'll do a picture like this and they're like cut off from there, that they have a belly. You usually can tell, but it's like sometimes it's harder to tell that they are of higher weight. It's just very deceptive. Now, I started thinking about this, and tallying it up is pretty ridiculous, but sadly, a lot of my dates that I go on and that I've been on, like the past 10 years plus, have been in situations where there are very deceptive things going on with the pictures that women put on their profile. And I've even been in situations where I thought a woman was like skinny, literally. There was this date, I think it was a Craigslist date a long time ago. I had a date with this girl, and she put these pictures and she looked like this hot, like tattooed girl. And it's not even the weight that I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the weight. The weight is one thing, okay? Like, one of my recent girlfriends, she had a few pictures where there were some filters going on, but you had other pictures where there weren't. You could tell that she was a bigger girl. I think that she was a little more borderline, actually, as far as what I'm talking about, because she might be borderline too. Who knows? Speaking of that, but I don't know. Borderline personality. I'm just joking. I don't even know I don't even know. But anyways, I know she has a lot of problems, but I don't think she watches these videos, so I really don't give a flying fuck. But I don't think most people that I know do not watch these videos, but some people do once in a while. So this whole thing, like that's kind of on the line of like, well, you have some pictures that are pretty genuinely representing your weight or how you look in some ways. Like, I knew that she was, on our first date, I knew she was going to be a little bigger. I just predicted it, but you can kind of tell. It was, I'm not saying to say she's Kittenfishing, like they say. That she was a little bigger, like, than maybe some of the filtering put forward, but not like most of the dates that I've had. This is what I'm trying to say. So I went on a date, this is a long time ago. This is when Craigslist had dating. And this girl, we meet at a Perkins, which is pretty sleazy, but it's kind of my style sometimes, it's kind of pseudo white trash things that I do sometimes. Not to be ironic, I don't know. Maybe I am kind of trashy. I don't know. Maybe I'm not. I don't know. I'm trying to clean. At least that's less trashy, less trash, more recyclables to take out too. Not only trash. I'm white recyclable. How about that? All these terms like white trash and stuff. People don't really say that anymore. I noticed. I don't know, it's unwoke or whatever, but this whole thing with these girls on these apps on these sites. I mean, easily a dozen, maybe more first dates that I go on or went on. I mean, in the past, like the past 10 years, or a little bit more than that. You get there and they don't look. They look like vaguely like the pictures. They somewhat vaguely resemble the pictures. And this is probably over half of these dates that I went on, because what they're doing, like, I don't know exactly how they do all these things. There's filters they use, there's angles they use, there's just various, methodical things that they do. And this kind of creates a lot of, if you're going on this date, what would stop me? Let me just ask the question, this rhetorical question. What would stop me from going on there and like posing with a Maserati and like dollar bills and like, pretending that I'm rich, and then maybe not listing my income, but like hiding it? So that's kind of the equivalent from, in a certain way, of this kind of deceptiveness. It's like you're putting this front forward that you're way less heavy than you are, for one. And just the deceptiveness of it, just the gall that you have of who are you to lie like this? I mean, I even matched with someone on Facebook dating the other day, and she had like this cartoon picture, and it was kind of an accident, because I looked at her pictures. I was like, what? And it's not to shame people's weight, and people may think that, but it goes well beyond that. Because if you're like, one of my girlfriends that I had in the past, I'll just give you an example. This is one of the better situations. I would have never told that she was actually as attractive in person than she was on her profile and pictures. In all honesty, her profile and pictures were kind of stupid. Like, she had a very professional, boring ass picture. When I met her in real life, she was hot. I was attracted right away. So like this can go the opposite way, but for the most part, it really doesn't, because it's like, who are you trying to fool? Is this really like? I mean, it's almost like, I dare say, like, it goes against the new woke, like, obesity acceptance thing. Because it's like, okay, most guys are not going to go for you if you put your, like, most recent, like, picture, like, with your chin and your huge gut hanging out, right? But yet you think that you're entitled to this because you are using these old ass pictures when you were 40 pounds lighter, or probably more. And some of the dates I've been on, it's more than that. It was more than just 40 pounds to put on. Trust me, I know what 40 pounds looks like. I've been all sorts of weights in my life. So I know, 40 pounds versus 20 pounds versus 60 or 80 or 100 pounds overweight, or over the weight you were. So it's kind of sickening that women can get away with this whole thing without any kind of accountability. No, I don't see any articles. Only like Manosphere articles talk about it, but it's usually like, avoid the Uggs, man. Just approach in real life, dude. Approach fatty. Hide the fatties. Fat girl overhead photo. Like, that's a term from the community of the Manosphere, whatever you want to call it. But it's so true. It's like, I mean, I've gotten really well prepped at it, and well trained, I guess you would say, as, spotting this thing. But sometimes you don't know. Even I don't know. Like, I don't know, because it's like, I go through these you go through the apps and you're like, wow, she looks really hot. And then, maybe they do have another picture up, which is still, in a way, it's deceptive, but it's a lot more acceptable. Like I said, like, one of my ex-girlfriends, you have the thing pulling you in and then you can look a little further. It's still deceptive, but not nearly as bad as catfishing or kitten fishing in the way that I'm talking about. And I think far too many people are accepting of this in our society. I'm not saying that you should be like a banned from doing it or censored or kicked off the apps or like, or like boycott or not boycotted, but like protested and like shamed publicly. I just mean there should be a societal backlash towards it because it's so disgusting to have this go on. And I'm not, it's not like I'm saying like a girl that I date has to be like super low BMI. Obviously, it's kind of hard to get that in my current state. But I'm just saying like it at least be at least if you are a little bigger, just accept it and show your body or your at least show like that you are who you are, not that you're fake. I don't hate everything that's fake anymore. It's something I like grew up like indoctrinated against. Like, oh, that's terrible if they have plastic surgery. Oh, it's terrible that she looks like she's 30 and she's 65. Oh, it's bad. I'm like, shit, I want to do that now. I'm like the opposite of what I was growing up in a lot of ways. Like I'm like, I used to be like a big prude, like almost Christian. Like I wanted to be married. Now I'm like the opposite in some ways. Just with everything. Maybe not politics completely, but somewhat, Well, actually, I'm pretty much the same with politics. I hate censorship. I hate hypocrisy. And that's been always my thing. So actually, I'm the same in that way. But yeah, it's just so stupid. And I just think it's a travesty when people try to, make excuses for this at all, too. It's just like, if you can't get a date, how the hell do you think? It's like when I go on these first dates. I resent them more than I would if I just avoided them in the first place, avoided in the first place. It's a waste of time. It's wasting my time. It's wasting theirs. Because if I'm not attracted to someone, I should know at least within a short amount of time. Now, things get complicated, like, with certain women I've dated where, there were certain situations or certain aspects of them, that I was split on, or they were split on with me. I mean, obviously that's a more complicated situation, but I'm talking about dates where I just walked off a couple of times. I did. I mean, I found an excuse to go home. Like there was this one time, it was just like, no, I can't do this. No. I mean, it's not only about, I don't even know if it's only about body weight. It's about the face and like, just, it's like you're just, it's being fooled into doing something that you don't want to do. I mean, women talk about this all the time with me too. It's like, oh my God, I was harassed. And, I'm just making fun of shit. Just bear with me. But it's like, some of this stuff is so messed up because like you can talk about, oh, well, he took me, or women that say they're groomed at 25 by an older man or whatever, because they had a bad relationship or whatever. But it's like, there's a lack. Okay, what I'm trying to get to is consent. You're lying. It's like a guy lying about using a rubber or something. It's maybe not on that level, but like it's closer to that level than, just your average, like, oh yeah, well, I'm an author. Oh, and then you find out later I'm writing a book, but I've never been published before or something like that. Some type of stretching the truth, the credulity, pushing credulity a little bit, but not too far. Like, it's just so like disingenuous to people. And there's a lack of consent. Dare I use the word consent? Dare I use this term and this idea that if you're on a date, it's not I don't know if it's not sexual harassment per se, but like you're on a date and you met them from the internet or from an app, in other words, and they're 300 pounds, and their picture looks like their picture is from 2013. Okay, let's just say 2013, when they were skinny, and then they had a kid, and then they got addicted to Little Debbie's or whatever, or Trader Joe's peanut butter cups, like I am. Uh, you they got addicted to some bad foods or whatever, and they gained like 100 pounds, and they had some kind of hormonal imbalance or something too. But they're using pictures from 2013, and then they have this picture is like this, and they're using the Snapchat filter, and they have a little dog face on it, and then they have all made up, and it's like in their car, and it's like this thin, like looking like this. And you go meet them, and they're like this fucking enormous, like, pain in the ass, because they're a fucking lying sack of shit, literal ton of shit, probably. No, I'm just, and I mean, people might say this is misogynist. Okay, well, I gave you an example. What if I went out and did actually lie about my income, or lie about my age, for that matter? I said, well, I'm 30 years old and I make about 100 grand a year. Do you want to go on a date with me? Come back to my bachelor apartment and see the the guitars that are everywhere, that are strewing around, and expect me to be some type of rich dude or something. Well, obviously I'm rich enough to buy 15 guitars. But actually, I just ordered a guitar, but I'm going to finance it. So, but I mean, it's just like, the lying to people in that way is really dumb. I think it proves, where's the character? Where is the ethics? When people talk about ethics, with men are so unethical if you sleep around, and it's like, I mean, that was the old school way, at least. And now with polyamory, maybe that's out the window. I don't know. But like, men are discouraged from being, at least in our modern era, from being like studs and players and all that stuff. It's like problematic, with Me Too and everything, to some extent. I mean, at least the vibe is, and maybe not the particular behaviors, all of them, but, women get a free pass with this whole thing, because they can lie and obfuscate their looks or their weight, or, I'm sure they lie. I've seen actually ones lie about their age too on the apps too, because I found out, like, what happened was, this is a long time ago. There was this woman that was on this app. They were on like one of the big sites back in the day, and they said they were like 34, and then like a couple months later they were 40 on another one. I'm like, okay, they're lying about their age, obviously, because they can't go from 34 to 40. And another one, I think they were 29 on too, which is like, I mean, I'm not gonna lie about my age. I mean, obviously I have plenty of fish. I may have to if I want to date anybody, more than 14 years younger or whatever, but which my ex, I wouldn't have been able to meet on there, by the way, because she was 15 years younger. But yeah, I mean, it's so stupid, and it's so immature. Deal with it. You fucking let yourself get to be that weight. You want to be in a relationship. A guy's not going to go on, and they're not going to come on that first date and be like, oh, well, you still look pretty cute. I'll go for it. I mean, I guess some guys that are desperate will, or they're just horny or whatever. And that's going to lead to a terrible relationship down the road. You'll be depressed, cry for days on end, and it'll be terrible again. It'll start the cycle over again, the cycle of bullshit. Or you can maybe accept your weight, show real pictures of yourself. That's an alternative, and then the choices will be less. The choices will be maybe closer to what an average man's choices are, huh? Dare not say that word, but your average guy is not as lucky as your obese woman much of the time. I'll just say that. I mean, I'm not saying, I think it's closer, but it's still, average, like ugly obese woman, I should say. Maybe not necessarily all of them, but it's one of those things, like, you'll have to either step up change your life, you know, lose that weight, and you know, look better, like have a better vibe about you, and take some pictures after that, or you're gonna have to just cope and seethe, you know, not cope and seethe, but cope and you know, deal with it. Yeah, you got fat. You know, there's a lot of bad foods out there. There's a lot of bad habits. There's a lot of bad societal habits right now, obviously. A lot of hormones and weird birth control methods that make people fat and shit, and microplastics, and you know, all sorts of weird things in our food and our air and our water and shit. They're probably making us fat too. Yeah, notice you didn't see a lot of fat people in the 70s. Actually, people were a little too thin for my taste, but you know, I don't know. 80s were a little bit, I mean, the 90s were a little bit more balanced, I think. That's probably the most balanced, like, decade for looks. Like, you know, chick had some curves, but they weren't, like, completely like a stick, and they weren't completely like fucking Lizzo. I had to say it. But yeah, just fucking deal with it. You know, I have to deal with all my shit. You know, I have to go out there and be who I am and get rejected. Why can't you? Are you that scared of being rejected? Oh, I have to use all these Snapchat filters on my profile pictures. You know, oh, if you stop using Snapchat filters and all these fucking filters and all these fucking angles and all these old pictures, maybe you won't get a date as fast. Whoop-de-doo. How would you like not having a date for fucking 8 years? How would you not have a date, your first date, until you were 24? Hey, you know, how would you like that? You fucking haven't seen shit. You haven't seen hell in your love life at all if you haven't, you know, dealt with the existential loneliness that many men have had. All this sounds like fucking Steve Hoka, so forgive me for that. I'm not anything like him. But I'm just saying, like, the double standard is pretty obvious and pretty questionable in this situation. You know, men can be lonely and men can have this shit. I mean, there's a backlash. Even like Breaking Points had an episode about like how the plight of men nowadays and shit, which is a true thing. After all this time attacking all the manosphere and MRAs and all this shit, people are finally waking up that men are, there's a little bit of an imbalance coming about now. And I'm not saying that historically there's an imbalance. I think there's, you know, different waves of different things all throughout history. So, but yeah, I'm not gonna like sit here and say it's okay for women to use all these fucking filters and all these fucking angles and all these, you know, these edits of their pictures when, and you know, there's one way to avoid that approach in real life, of course, but you know, which I'm starting to do. Of course, I've kind of slacked the last couple of weeks, but you know, it's like it's just so deceptive and so demeaning. It's demeaning to themselves. Think about this. It's like demeaning yourself. It's like denying yourself reality. It's like deluding yourself. It's kind of like shows a very deeply seated self-hatred to have to use all that deceptiveness, those deceptive ideas in your, you know, dating life. Maybe I shouldn't talk because I'm into like pickup artist stuff, but that's not the same. I could go into why it isn't, but as far as like, you know, it's not like I sit and write lines down or something, you know, like, you know, hey, you're Russian. You've been rushing through my head. I think some of this shit's funny. Pickup lines are funny. I don't care. I'm a comedian, so I'll probably get laid anyways from just being a comedian and getting better at that down the road anyways. So it really doesn't fucking matter in the long run, but who knows? I don't know. I'm being a little less humble today, but yeah, I think it's stupid. And this video has gone on way too long. I just wanted to go on a little rant about this because I think it's fucking terrible that that women are doing this. And you know, it's like Spinal Tap, you know, where they put the cucumbers in their pants and stuff. It's like, it's the same thing. Like, oh, who's this hot chick? Oh my God, I had a match on Tinder. Oh, and your friend's celebrating you and all this stuff. And like, oh man, she's really hot. Those pictures are great. Just be careful, man. She might be a catfish or kittenfish. Kittenfish is like it's like in between catfish and regular person. Like Kittenfish is like what I'm talking about more than catfish, because catfish implies, at least what meaning that I've heard, is like a completely different person. Kittenfish is like deceptive pictures and stuff like that. So, oh, I go on this, you go on the date and you're like, hi, I'm Melinda. You are? Hi, I'm Matt. I've never had a date with a girl named Melinda, by the way. I just made that up. The face of Melinda, Opus in my head. No, I'm just kidding. Not really. Oh, hi. Oh, you want to go sit over there? Okay, we'll go sit over there. So what do you like to do? Oh, checking my phone here. I gotta get going. I'm sorry. It's nice to meet you. See you around. Bye. And a lot of those dates, I went on and I didn't do that because I just was like, there was this one date I went on where I actually made out with her. It was pretty tough. I almost took her home and stuff, but I feel really stupid about that. And then she criticized me later for that. And it was like, because I changed my mind in the middle of it. I was like, no, I can't do that. I just couldn't do it. And it was funny because like a year later, I saw her at the show and I was with this girl that was actually really thin, like really good looking. Now this girl that was just, I don't know. She was a redhead too. So that was why it was tempting to take her home. But I'm giving away too much information, TMI in this video. But yeah, it's just really like, and the girl that I was with, may I mention that when I saw this other girl that I had that botched date with, was formerly modeled too. So I'm not exaggerating. It's just like she had a modeling page and shit. It's not a big deal. So it's like kind of a night and day thing, You're like, oh well, that was a year ago. I had that date. Now I'm with this girl. Of course, things did not work out with that girl, but unfortunately. But yeah, it's just like one of those things. Like you can't. Online dating and apps and stuff, they have their purpose and they serve their purpose and they have their benefits, but they have a lot of flaws, and that's one of the flaws. Is one that just people are so deceptive and so fucking full of hubris for this idea. I just can't get my head around how they think that they can get away with this shit and like go on these dates and actually get anywhere. Like I said, there's been situations where I was like, that was probably me in that situation, like I described earlier. Like, well, if you're desperate enough, you'll be like, oh, she doesn't look like her pictures. Okay, I'll just throw it in there. But, I just couldn't bring myself to do that. And I don't regret it at all, because I just, would have been a really awkward situation, That's probably what separates me from a lot of guys. It's like, if I'm going to, other than a few select situations, but even those are like borderline, like, oh, I kind of like her, it separates me from a lot of guys that would just do it anyways. But I'm just not, I don't know. I'm not conservative by any means, but I'm just not into like being someone like I would be repulsed by the next day. I'll just say that, It's been already bad enough in situations that I've been in than to have done anything with that situation. And there's a lot more situations like that, but not really like, well, I should say there were most of the time I would just go on the date and walk off, or just end the date, when it logically ended after a conversation. But just so many times, it was so many times there was these pictures, and you're looking at the picture, you're like, nothing wrong there. Even some of them that I swear, like the picture probably was more recent, but for some reason I don't know how they got that. There was even like, well, this one time this girl was in a group picture, and it was obvious that it was more like somewhat recent. And I went on a date with her, and it was just like weird facial whatever. It's like, get the fuck away from me. Like, it sounded like Andrew Dice Clay, like, get the fuck away from me, from back in the day. And it sounds really misogynist, but it's just like, don't fucking do this to people. Or else I'm going to do it. I'm going to say that I have a Mercedes Benz and just go on OkCupid and say, I make 100,000 a year. I'm really 30, you know? I'll fucking lie. Maybe I'll do that. See how you feel. See how, you know, I'm being a sexist by doing this video. Maybe I am, you know? Maybe there's a little bit of bitterness towards the ladies for this. I just think it's fucked up. I just think it's wrong. I think it's a sick part of our society. Now, you could say maybe it's because we're too shallow and based on looks, which is biology, by the way. In fact, there's some people that say, like, you're attracted to, like, you see these couples, they look similar. It's like you're attracted to someone that looks sort of similar to you, or there's like these biological evolutionary things, or has this thing that complements you. I don't know where all these studies would lead, but like, if you find someone ugly, there might be some kind of evolutionary reason. It's just like finding some, you know, if someone's super fat, you know, that might be unhealthy. You want healthy offspring, you know, or someone's too skinny at the same time, or too, you know, this or that, you know, they might have some might have some kind of like genetic condition, like in our primordial brain and like the recesses of our evolutionary mind and our DNA. It's like this thing that, like, don't mate with that, you know. I mean, it's a whale. You can't mate with a whale. But that's about all.